So what can you expect when you confront a spouse or a child or someone with your knowledge that they have a sexual addiction? In other words, you've gotten into their history or something. I would say, usually what you can expect is a defense because they themselves are horrified, are mortified if someone were to find out, because they don't think, this isn't me. This isn't me. Because I care about people and, I'm not some sick pervert and so they beat themselves up. So you can expect a defense. Half the people that I know react with anger. They'll start blaming, they'll blow up and whatever. Or avoidance. Lying, minimizing, denying, oh no, not me, that must be somebody else, or my coworker borrowed my computer and he must have been looking at it. So it takes a lot of trust for someone who's addicted to be able to disclose what they're feeling and their helplessness, because often they don't think anything can help. They've tried so many thousands of times to quit and haven't been able to, that they feel hopeless and discouraged, and so it takes a lot of trust. And if you can come through with warmth and understanding and firmness, I can understand that you don't want me to find out because you don't want to lose my respect or my love. But what if you didn't lose my respect or my love, but we worked together as a team and I were to help you get through this? We can work this through together. Oh, best of all scenarios. You know what? I'll tell you, as human beings, we love intense experiences. We go to horror movies, we go to, we ride on rides that are insane, roller coasters and things like that. And so we kind of like these intense experiences, and we see pornography and it's like, whoa. Plus, like I said, being in our DNA and bred into us so that sexuality is attractive, you take somebody in junior high and they're kind of defenseless. It's like, whoa, so that's what girls look like, or that's what boys look like. Wow, weird. And it's a curiosity, and they're driven towards it. Well, what happens in the brain is that pleasure center fires. It's, deep inside the very center of the brain, there's a pleasure center, and it just fires, and it's very powerful, and different areas of the brain start firing, and you get this intense experience. And then neurochemicals are released: dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, oxytocin, the bonding chemical. And so these are released, and all of a sudden, man, you are getting a rush like you can't believe, a pleasurable rush. And it's interesting because alcoholics aren't addicted to the liquid in the glass, and heroin users aren't addicted to this little white substance, or LSD isn't, this little microscopic chemical. What they're addicted to is that feeling, that rush. And pornography will give that to you every bit as much as any of those chemicals. And so here's a guy, and he's triggered by being bored, burnout, lonely, and all of a sudden, bam, it's like, oh, I'm too tired to go do anything, but, I've got some time, what do I want to do? You can't beat this kind of rush. That's why it's addictive. And so they'll go to it, and through repetition, your brain becomes conditioned, and then it's hard to leave it. And so anytime then you get these triggers of being bored, burnout, lonely, you're driven towards it, and the more you try to fight it, that OCD cycle, obsessive compulsive disorder cycle, kicks in, and the more you try to resist it, the more it becomes intrusive and forces its way in your brain, and then you can't leave it, and you're sunk. So you fight it, and then you're just worn down, worn out, and then you give in. There's another thing with addiction. Addiction, we find through research, actually dislocates, is the best way to describe it, the frontal lobes of the brain, which is what makes us human. It's our executive process center. It's our ability to plan and to anticipate consequences and remember activities in the past and make rational decisions. All of that is dislocated. The other thing that's in that frontal lobe is our will. Rather than being driven by instinct, which, to a certain extent, we may be with this, but is our will, our self-discipline. And so people who have never been addicted are like, why don't you just quit? Just don't go to the computer. Just don't do it. They have no idea because they have 100% of their self-discipline. But a person who's addicted may be running on 20% of their self-discipline. It's like, I saw this one guy. He was a marathon runner. He said, I can endure pain. I have so much self-discipline in this area. But when it comes to pornography, man, I'm at 10%. And it's like, no, I don't want to. But they're like walking towards it. And they don't have the self-discipline or the will. And they can't remember how painful it was. And they don't remember making these promises to themselves. It's just like a laser. They're just guided right to it. And they have little capacity to withstand or hold back. And that's the way it is with every addiction. But this sexual addiction, I'm telling you, it's a powerful one. It's more prevalent than you can imagine. But to say it doesn't harm our society, is what the tobacco company was saying, years ago. Oh, no, it doesn't hurt you. Researchers, man, it's just anecdotal. It's nothing. It's garbage. Pornography is very, very destructive, especially emotionally and psychologically, and in relationships. I'll tell you what, I see more sexual perpetration now than I did when I started 25 years ago. And with perpetrators, they will tell you it always starts with pornography. Pornography is like a drug. You start out smoking, and then you go to weed, marijuana, and then you try, something a little harder, and then something a little harder. Pornography is the same way. You start out with maybe, some bathing suits or lingerie, and then you progress to this, then you progress to that, until finally you are looking at very hardcore pornography because you build up a tolerance, and it needs more and more to get that rush. And so a lot of people start to get fuzzy on what's reality and what's fantasy. And I've seen great people get hooked on pornography and cross that line where they start acting out their fantasies with a person. I'm thinking one that I saw, a great guy that I saw last week who had gotten into pornography, crossed the line, and gone in and molested his 14-year-old niece. And I'll tell you what, he was devastated because all of a sudden it was like, I can't believe what I just did. And he's facing prison and divorce. His life is in shambles. And he said, as much as I love my niece and as much as I care about people and morality and values and goodness, I couldn't stop myself.